Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Tylearn, and today I am bringing you guys part 3 of What If Goku Went Super Saiyan Early. Now, if you guys want to know what happened in the previous 2 parts, I am not going to be recapping. Instead, I'm going to be leaving a link down in the description where you guys can go and check out the playlist of this series so you guys can go and catch up on parts 1 and 2 and then come back to this video. You guys demolished the like goal on part 2. I mean, I asked for 400 likes, which I thought was pretty big, and I thought it was going to take at least a day for you guys to reach that, but no, you guys reached it under like 10 hours of the video's upload. You guys demolished the last like goal, and so I'm going to be raising the like goal to 500 likes this time. It's going to be a little harder because you guys did take at least a little bit of time to reach 400, so maybe 500, that'll be your limit. But more than likely, you guys are going to break the limit and then just make fun of me for making the like goal so low and just saying how the like button is getting bullied. Anyways, now I'm going to shut up, and I hope you guys do enjoy my interpretation of the Android Saga.
Hey, collecting rings like I'm Sonic. Bitches wanna party. My wrist getting heavy, so I got 'em on a diet. Yeah, flex like I'm Hogan. The Obi's coming over. We respect.
We start our story off in the main timeline where Trunks leaves after telling Piccolo and Goku about the future, or I guess in his timeline, because now this isn't even the same timeline at all anymore. We can't even call it the future. Yamcha and Krillin and Tien would decide to train together here and think now they are ready to step up to train in the time chamber. If you guys do remember back in part 1, they wanted to go into the time chamber, but Kami said that they were not ready. However, hearing about these androids that kill all of them in the timeline, decide to try and change their fate and train in the time chamber and overcome their limits. Besides, Goku and Piccolo managed to go in, and Krillin, Tien, and Yamcha, after their experience on Namek, have gotten a lot stronger, even stronger than Piccolo and Goku at that time. Before heading into the time chamber, Popo would make sure there's enough supplies for all 3 of them to survive for the 1 year, and yes, all 3 of them would go in at once. And if you guys are going to be like, well, only 2 people can go in, Boo Saga. Anyways, for the next 1 year, or I guess 1 day on Earth, Tien, Krillin, and Yamcha would train hard in the time chamber and overcome the conditions that are inside of it. When they emerge, they feel a lot more powerful and a lot more confident, so confident that they would even challenge Piccolo and Goku when they are in the middle of training. Speaking of Goku and Piccolo, they would have been training before the humans arrived, and Goku and Piccolo, I think, would have had much more intense training than in canon, given the fact that Gohan is not in the mix, meaning Goku and Piccolo don't have to suppress themselves around someone. Rather, Goku and Piccolo are just exerting a lot more power, meaning they are getting better gains, and when the humans approach them, they would decide to have a 2v3 where Piccolo would take on Krillin and Yamcha at the same time, where Tien personally would like to fight Goku alone. Piccolo forms a clone that would rush at Yamcha, while the real Piccolo would face Krillin, just like how they did in the 23rd Budokai. As for Goku and Tien, they would be going at it, and the humans would decide to show off their full power, which would prove to be quite the trouble for Goku and Piccolo. However, just like the humans initially, they weren't going all out either. Tien, Yamcha, and Krillin would stop fighting and fly up to the sky as they all power up their full powered attack. Krillin firing a Destructo Disc, Tien firing a Tri-Beam, and Yamcha firing a Spirit Ball. Goku and Piccolo, being impressed that the humans actually got this far, decide to reward them by going all out themselves, and they would fire a Masenko and Kamehameha wave, which would combine with each other, and they would hold back just enough power to not kill the humans, but they would overpower their beams and defeat them. After this, the humans are actually satisfied that they managed to get this far, even though Goku and Piccolo made sure that they didn't kill them, and they would thank Goku and Piccolo for the spar. The humans would then train together on Kami's lookout for the remaining 3 years, as Goku and Piccolo would continue their training. Now, like I said earlier, Piccolo and Goku would have much more intense training in this timeline, and we already know back in part 2, we saw a glimpse of Super Saiyan Grade 2 being wielded by Goku on Yardrat. However, it was only a one-time thing, but with 3 years of training and Piccolo and Goku just straight scrapping the whole time, and these two at this point have already gotten the hold of spirit control, so Goku post-Yardrat training should have an easier time trying to ascend than a pre-Yardrat Goku training or in the middle of that training. You guys get what I mean, and with no one holding them back, Piccolo and Goku could just be breaking their limits, so much so that Goku even is able to wield Grade 2 briefly. However, it does take massive amounts of energy to wield, and Goku is currently trying to find something better. This leads into the androids arriving, and they would be a lot more powerful than their canon selves due to already being aware of what Super Saiyan is. Goku initially tries fighting, but instead of at first beating 19 and losing because of the heart virus, he would just be getting bullied even worse than when heart virus Goku tried fighting 19 at the start of the fight, and Goku would have to try and rely on grade 2, but due to the energy consumption and the heart virus already being within Goku, this form just makes the heart virus's pain even worse, and Goku would feel it even earlier than in canon and would have to be taken out of the battlefield. The Z Fighters try to move in, but Dr. Gero would stop them, and Piccolo by that point would remove his weights, and he tells the humans to try and come up with a follow-up plan if Piccolo loses. At that point, dozens of Piccolo would then surround the actual Piccolo, and they would also grow in size. This is him using his giant form on all of his clones, which would distract Dr. Gero. Long enough for the Z Fighters to cast the Solar Flare technique, aka Tien and Krillin doing this on Android 19 just like how they did in the Namek Saga, while Yamcha would grab Goku and save his life. The giant Piccolo clones are simply just getting overpowered by Dr. Gero. Even though they are large in size, Dr. Gero is just a lot more powerful, so this doesn't really matter, and this would then lead into Dr. Gero finding the real Piccolo and bringing him down. He would nearly absorb Piccolo's energy, however that is when Tien fires a Tri-Beam to send Dr. Gero flying. Android 19 by that point would have recovered, but Krillin would have thrown a Destructo Disc, which Android 19 initially dodges, but that is when we see the Destructo Disc actually multiply, and catching Android 19 by surprise, leading into one of the Destructo Disc actually slicing one of his arms. Android 19 being disarmed, literally, would be enraged and would try and blast Krillin away, but Piccolo last second would actually manage to take the blast for Krillin and would be heavily injured. Luckily though, Tien would manage to fire another Solar Flare which would blind the androids, and Tien would rush over to Krillin and Piccolo, where Piccolo would then tell him to grab a hold onto him, which they do, and Piccolo would use his instant transmission to bring them to the lookout. Like in canon, they would decide to try and come up with a plan to stop these androids, but instead of it being 17 and 18, it's just Dr. Gero and Android 19, who would decide to go back to their base to recuperate. Piccolo, after hours of just insulting Kami and saying he's useless, Kami would accept and would come to the conclusion that Piccolo is right, and like in canon, they would fuse, with Piccolo getting a major amp. Piccolo feels a lot more powerful and feels confident he can take on Dr. Gero and Android 19, but as this was happening, they would actually sense another energy, an energy they actually sense this time, so they know it's not an android. He's going around just slowly killing populations, and this would lead into Piccolo arriving to the scene, and this would lead into him encountering Cell. The same conversation would go as in canon, and Cell barely escapes, with Piccolo getting the intel he needed. Like I said, Gero and 19 would go back to their hideout to lick their wounds and make some much needed upgrades. He believes these Z Fighters are going to be mainly distracting him from his goal of stopping Goku, and Gero and 19 barely lost to those Z Fighters. I mean, hell, they defeated Goku by himself, and the only reason they escaped was because they had to distract them. So, why not get the ultimate machine that Gero made to specifically take on Son Goku while Gero and 19 kill the others? And plus, Gero in this timeline is a lot more cautious and took a lot more precautions to ensure the death of Son Goku, thanks to Goku being a lot more powerful. And him having more time to build more powerful androids, this would lead into him realizing 17 and 18 and their potential in them maybe betraying Gero or just them not getting the job done. They are teenagers and they're not going to be as efficient. Whereas with Android 16, who like Android 19 is an actual android, he can get the job done. I mean, Android 19 and 20 almost got the job done by themselves. So they would just have another one of their kind, aka Android 16, who's perfectly suited for this because he personally wants to take on Son Goku. I mean, that's his whole mission. By the time they exit and they would begin flying around to try and hunt down Goku, this is where Piccolo and Cell would be confronting each other, and Cell barely escapes. Dr. Gero, 19 and 16 would then encounter Imperfect Cell, who's trying to escape from Piccolo, and this would lead into him meeting his creator. He would explain how he's from the future and he's Gero's perfect creation. However, he's not perfect just yet. He needs to absorb 17 and 18. Dr. Gero laughs as he says, just like how you said, I'm the one who created you. I know you better than anyone else. Dr. Gero would then tell Cell to stand down, or else. Cell then smirks as he would then fire off a Kamehameha wave. However, to Cell's surprise, Dr. Gero just simply puts his hand out and absorbs his energy. Due to Cell already being weakened here and getting his energy absorbed here, and having Android 16 who would be stronger than an Imperfect Cell after this and absorbing a bunch of cities, Android 16 has the power to defeat Cell here, and Android 19 and Dr. Gero can assist him by simply jumping in and absorbing his energy, making it easier for 16 to kill him. Cell would never get the chance to absorb the androids or obtain his perfect form, and now Dr. Gero would still be on the hunt for Goku. By this point, Future Trunks would have arrived, and yes, this does happen thanks to you guys voting that he actually does come back to the past after 3 years. Instead of seeing Android 19's head and knowing something's wrong with the timeline, he would see Android 19's arm and not recognizing this arm, because this is not the arm of 17 or 18. Trunks then believes that there might be a bigger problem than he thought, and he would head to the lookout due to him sensing all the powers over there. Those powers, that being the Z Fighters, and Trunks would then be filled in by Piccolo and the others what had been going down, and Trunks by this point can't really do anything. So they simply just wait for Goku to wake up, and yes, they would still move Goku just like in canon, and Dr. Gero would be going to every possible location he could try and track down Goku. But like in canon, they actually don't manage to find him, and instead Piccolo would go out to try and stall the androids. Goku eventually wakes up and like in canon comes up with the idea of the hyperbolic time chamber, but this time he would take in Trunks, just because he's not only the other strongest person around, but also Trunks needs to try and get rid of his androids as well, so this will benefit both of them. I feel like both of them during this time in the time chamber, they would not only go through the Super Saiyan grades, Trunks discovers Super Saiyan grade 3, but Goku already was trying to find a form better than grade 2, and since he already had that intention before going into the chamber, he would emerge way stronger than in canon, already having grade 4 and would be on the verge of obtaining Super Saiyan 2. Trunks would also learn grade 4 as well and become a lot more powerful than his canonical version when he first went into the time chamber, and I think in this timeline Goku would also help out Trunks by teaching him a certain technique that can save his future, due to Trunks going so far as to try and go and save a timeline where he doesn't even exist and save their future. So Goku's going to try and return the favor by trying to teach him instant transmission so that he can maybe go around and eventually try and find new Namek. They would have a full year to train, which they do spend this time, meaning Trunks would have plenty of time to master this technique and try and locate new Namek. Or at least learn the technique to go and then try after, saving this timeline, blah blah blah. You guys understand what I'm trying to say. As this was happening, Piccolo would have been stalling the androids just like in the canonical version, but this time he would be combating Android 20, who thinks he can take on Piccolo by himself, but isn't aware of the Kami boost. Piccolo easily dismantles Dr. Gero just like how he did in the canon version, forcing Android 16 to then try and help him, and even Android 19 would try and intervene, but this would only lead into Piccolo actually managing to get a kill shot on Android 19. This was because by this point Android 19 would be the weakest android, as Android 20 did absorb Cell's Kamehameha. Not to mention 19 already suffered an injury, so he would be only getting in the way, and Piccolo would get a free kill in this timeline. However, he can only stall and drag the fight on long enough against Android 16, who would be protecting Dr. Gero, and that's the only reason he wouldn't be able to put him down. As Android 16 goes for the finishing blow, Goku and Trunks would emerge from the time chamber using instant transmission, and Goku would intercept just in time, kicking Android 16 into a nearby mountain, whereas Trunks would then blast at Dr. Gero, sending him flying. And the only reason he didn't die was because Trunks wasn't trying. Future Trunks would then ask Dr. Gero where 17 and 18 are, as Gero would then question how does he even know about them. This would lead into 16 recovering from Goku's kick, and 16 versus Goku would then ensue. While Dr. Gero would be scared because Trunks already fired a blast that he barely managed to survive, and apparently Trunks wasn't even trying, and Goku is somehow able to beat up Android 16 by this point, who is far stronger than Dr. Gero, and so seeing an opportunity at hand would then off-guard Trunks and try and fly back to his lab, trying to summon 17 and 18. Trunks takes a smart route and seemingly loses Gero, but in actuality has just been keeping his distance on him and watching him from afar. This would lead into Dr. Gero going back to his base and trying to summon 17 and 18 by this point, trying to eliminate this threat, because now these androids are the only things that he's got right now. However, he doesn't notice Trunks following him, and Trunks will then fire a Masenko that not only obliterates Dr. Gero, but his entire lab, including 17 and 18. As this was happening, Goku would fire a Kamehameha that would vaporize Android 16, and the android threat is no more. There's no Perfect Cell, no Super Saiyan 2 Teen Gohan, none of that stuff here. Instead, Future Trunks would then be taken by Goku to New Namek in the present timeline to show him, for example, where it is, and we would still get Dende as Earth's new guardian. Trunks then says farewell to the present timeline Z Fighters, and he would go back to his timeline, and he would also try his best to find New Namek, but luckily he manages to find it thanks to Goku taking him on that trip. This would lead into him asking the elders if he can use the Dragon Balls to revive his friends and explaining everything to them, and basically how he is the student of Gohan, who's the son of Goku, who saved Namek. So they would be giving the Dragon Balls to Trunks willingly, and this would lead into Trunks reviving Piccolo. He would revive Gohan as well so that he can instantly go back to Earth and then just hug him and reunite with his mentor once again. And they would slowly revive the rest of the Z fighters, and they would start rebuilding the future. However, there are still threats not only in our timeline, but also in the future timeline as well. But we will be covering that some other time. My name is Tylearn, and this is where I'm going to be leaving part 3 off for right now. If you did enjoy the video, guys, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new to the channel, hit the bell icon, that way you are notified and updated when I upload. Follow me on Twitter, that will be linked in the description, along with checking out the playlist. Remember, guys, the like goal is 500 likes, so let's hit that like goal, and I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Peace out, have a nice rest of the day, everybody.